Isaiah 52. So, God said that the Israelite will be sold for nothing, and will be redeemed without money. They went to Egypt, and then the Assyrian oppressed them, and then they were taken away. But God says that these are without reason. I guess in the perspective of the oppressor, it was without reason, but God did have a reason to let them be captive, and that is to punish them for their sins of idolatry and turning away from God, to discipline them. So God had a reason, but the oppressor did not. He just used the oppressors to teach the Israelite a lesson. However, those who rule over them howl, and God's name was continually reviled. Yeah, I mean, I actually saw or read about the Assyrian king, Sebu something, and his general that pretty much was like, oh, we defeated all these countries, their gods didn't help them, or nations, not countries, nations, their God didn't help them. What makes you think your God will help you?
Why didn't they help them?
Because they are idols. Those aren't real gods of the other nations. And so, yeah, so I read the Bible recorded the arrogance of the Assyrians. And so when God writes this and when God says this, it must have been really bad, even worse than what was recorded. But then God said, here I am. And when he showed himself, then, he is God. And then so then God is saying that the Lord will restore Zion. There will be cheer and shout. He has redeemed Jerusalem, so that all the ends of the earth may see the salvation of God. And he will do this in sight of all the nations. And he telling the Israelite to depart, go, do not touch what is unclean, go out. And the Israelites are referred to as those who carry the vessel of the Lord. And the Lord will go before them. He will be their rear guard. And then it then talk about Jesus, because and the term, like, God actually referred to Jesus as his servant quite a few times, and that he talks about how people will be appalled at Jesus' appearance was marred, and then he will sprinkle many nations. Kings will shut their mouth on account of him, and they will see what they have not been told and understand what they have not heard. So that's kind of cryptic, but I think that's actually the style of God, especially in the Old Testament. And it's because God speaks in prophecy, and prophecies are supposed to be cryptic until it happens. And I think it's a part due to the battle with Satan. That through the ages, Satan will try to kill Jesus. He will try to kill the Israelite, the Jews, so that God's inheritance cannot come to fruition. He tries to do that. And so even in Genesis, the prophecy about the snake and Jesus was there. And there are parts that are talking about the present, but then sprinkle in there. There are parts that will talk about the future, and then we won't really understand it until hindsight, until we get a 2020 hindsight. But that's why when Jesus resurrected, he explained himself using scripture, using the Old Testament, using prophecy. And then people are like, now I understand what that part really means. Right? And so, but Satan, when he reads, he probably understands. He knows the Bible. He knows God's word. And he's probably studying it, trying to find a way to not make it happen. And he couldn't, because if he knew that, if he understood the prophecy, then he wouldn't have tried to kill Jesus. But he did understand. He thought that killing Jesus meant he won. But killing Jesus actually meant he lost, and lost big time. And that was the final battle. And he just lost. And God prophecy remains. So we can see that the Bible, I look at it as a code book, and I think I referred to it previously also, but that's how I see it. It's like there are texts that are relevant, but then, especially in the Old Testament, God put prophecy in there so that he can prove himself to people, to us, who he loved. And so, yeah, I went off on a tangent on that one, but it's just so cool to me, the way that God does that. And yeah.